The War of 1812 is seen as the first major war for America as an independent nation, following their split from Britain. Ironically, the war itself was fought between America and Great Britain, along with their Native American allies. There are three causes for the U.S. to declare war. The first of them was a series of trade restrictions that was introduced by the British to impede American trade with France. This was because, at the time, Britain was at war with France, and they didn't want to deal with the threat of the US attempting to help their ally. The other two immediate causes was that the British was impressing, or they were forcing the recruitment of US citizens into the British Royal Navy, and the British's military support for American Indians, who were offering armed resistance to the expansion of the American frontier to the northwest. Another powerful motivation for the Americans was the need to uphold national honor in the face of what they considered to be British insults, an example of which was the Chesapeake Affair. Since the U.S.'s attempts to settle the land that they acquired with the Louisiana Purchase was consistently stopped by Indian raids, many historians have now concluded that the U.S.'s declaration of war was merely just a bargaining tactic so that they could rid of the Indians from that area and acquire more land, including parts of Canada. The four major theaters of war were on the oceans, where the warships of both sides bombarded each other. Along the Atlantic coast of the United States, which was quickly blockaded by the British. On the long frontier running across the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River, which separated the United States from Upper and Lower Canada. And finally, along the coast of the Gulf of Mexico, where U.S. General Andrew Jackson defeated the Creek Indians at the Battle of Horseshoe Bend and a major British army at the Battle of... However, both sides did have their victories, and among these were Britain's control of Washington, D.C., which they later burned, and Maine. The Americans managed to gain control of Lake Erie, which was very important because it cut off the Native Americans from British aid. They also managed to kill Tecumseh, a notable Indian leader who was killed at the Battle of Thames. As time dragged on and the war continued, neither side had a good reason to continue the fighting, because the causes of the war had completely disappeared, and neither side was gaining an advantage over one another. So this led to the signing of the Treaty of Ghent on December 24, 1814. The terms of the treaty were that the United States and Britain would stop fighting, all conquered territory that was taken by either side would be returned to the country it once belonged to, that the Americans would gain fishing rights into the Gulf of St. Lawrence, and that both the United States and Britain would recognize the boundary between the US and Canada. The treaty was ratified on February 18, 1815. However, since news of the treaty would take 2 months to reach the Americas, the war did not stop. And during that time, both sides won key victories. The Americans won the Battle of New Orleans, whereas the British won the Battle of Fort Boyer. Despite there being a lack of a clear winner in the War of 1812, many good things emerged from it. Soon after we elected our 5th president, James Monroe, in 1817, the Battle of New Orleans, along with the successful defense of Fort Baltimore, which inspired the lyrics of our national anthem, the Star-Spangled Banner, there was a sense of enthusiasm that rushed into the country, and it ushered in an era of good feelings. During this time, the partisan gridlock that once existed in our political parties was completely gone. Canada emerged from the War of 1812 with a great sense of national strength and solidarity. And in Great Britain, the people welcomed in an era of peaceful relations with the United States.